Welcome to Ray of God. I'm your host, Saima, and with Fatima, we are the co-creators of this space. Ray seeks to share feminine spiritual wisdom to help realize God in all ways and to align with justice, truth, and beauty. The energetic state of the feminine is our guiding principle and holds our intention. And while we believe that all genders hold the feminine and masculine within themselves, we are women-led and women-centered and welcome and encourage all souls to help us to join in creating safer, more inclusive spaces. So I'm delighted to continue with our Ray Reads session this month with this wonderful, slim but powerful collection of short stories. They fell like stars from the sky, and other stories written by award-winning Palestinian author Sheikha Helawy, who is joining us today. And I'm just going to bring you in, Sheikha. Welcome.
Thank you, Saima. I'm so glad to be here, and I am so proud of the women here and the women that bring me to be here and brought me to be here. The women in the book, all my basic family, my mother, my aunties, and also to Nancy, my great translator to English. I feel a kind of, not just a cooperation between writer and translator. It's a kind of, feminist work, and I think it's the way that women around the world, maybe who read in English, that just founded themselves in this book, familiar lives. That things that I think it's the more powerful thing for me, because it's not just for the Bedouin women who was and still were and still in my life, but I think it's a kind of communication between me and the women in and around the world. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel really blessed that I came across this copy, and I've also been able to join some of the calls that you've done. And we've also had some wonderful conversations, the two of us as well. So I'm so excited to share this with everybody. For folks that have yet to get their copy, I'm just going to quickly read the blurb. So this is a collection of 18 illustrated short stories celebrating the courage, resilience, tragedies, and triumphs of Bedouin Palestinian women and girls. From a woman whose tattoo arouses the alarm of sexual taboos, to the young girls whose curiosities of womanhood spark endearment, and from the tragic outcome of a husband consumed by jealousy of his wife's teenage love, to the ecstatic love of an elderly woman for the game of football. These stories offer mesmerizing portraits of life on the margins. And exactly what you said, Sheikha, you've written this book about Bedouin women and girls, and Amira and I have had this conversation about how it doesn't seem to matter what background we come from. There is something really powerful and also quite painful in the way that I certainly related to these stories. And we're really blessed also to have the translator Nancy Roberts joining us today as well, so we're hoping that we can weave this conversation between us. But I'd like to start by asking you something that you've already spoken about, and to let our listeners here know about how did this collection come into being?
I just want to say that maybe three stories we just added to the book. This book was written, new stories, new 2 years ago, but the book that was published at 2015, first in Arabic. I just start writing at the age of, 45, 46, something like that. And it was such, I didn't plan it, or I didn't write before. I didn't experience the writing. I was just, I like to read good books. So when I suddenly start writing the first story about Haifa, that I cut my bride to be one of the girl of Haifa. It was the prize. So when I start writing the story, it was something that I cannot explain it. It's a kind of, an inner crisis. It's something related to the age, to the questions about the identities that I have, Bedouin women, Palestinian, who moved to Jaffa, women that I think, I'm sure, I'm not think, that she didn't live her teenager's life because of the traditional society. And it's just like you walked in a very tiny and thin stick, just to make sure that you will not make mistake or something like that. I would say that just today I remembered that we used to kiss the hands of the old people. So when old women visited us, I was maybe 12, and all the children ran to kiss her hand, and she just make like this, and I said, I put my hand in her hand, and she was very angry about that, because I thought, why I should do it, because it's kind of humiliating me. So it's just I remember today, but when I start writing, I think it's a kind of, maybe Nancy can help me. إغلاق حساب، يعني نوع من الحساب, something that you or Amira, she's muted. When you make a kind of reviews.
Yeah. غلق حساب, like coming into account with yourself. Nancy is unmuted.
Yes,
she's the translator here.
We would probably call it closure in modern parlance, where you settle something بتسوي يعني خلاص بتتوصل لتسوية داخلية صح؟
أيوه.
هيك شيء.
It's a kind of, you have many questions, and you have, yes, to deal with it, and to you need to do it, but you have to go back to your past and just check what happened there, what make you in this period of your life, in my life, what make me sad, what make me sometimes angry. There's things that I can in my dreams, and a kind of flashback that suddenly I remember it. So it was a kind of this, and from there I started writing my stories. And it was a kind, you can maybe, who read the collection, you can notice that it's a kind of flashbacks. The school in Haifa, the first time in the wedding of my uncle, the first time that I lied to my mom. It's a kind of just flashbacks, and not a very connecting events. So because I still don't have the you know, the continuous event. I cannot connect between them. There is a gap in my memories, and I even discovered that sometimes it's something that I'm sure that happened with me, and suddenly my mom says it wasn't. You just imagine this. It's I can tell you about the the village we were living. We didn't have any schools or streets or electricity or water. So I remember that there was a truck with books that's coming every week at Friday and allow us to take books. And because we live in a mountain, so I remember myself running down the mountain to this truck and want to take books and sit on the stairs of the inside the truck. And the driver who said, okay, hurry up, I want to go to another village. So when I told my mom about this story, and she said there wasn't something like that, and said, I'm sure. She said, you are just imagine this. And she started to account the cars that come to my village, who sell fruits and vegetables, who bring us once a week in the summer ice creams. But there no such thing like that. But I told her, but I remember even the books that I read on the stairs. And she said, you should remember, because you dreamt about a library. So there is books there. It's exactly that way. So I really don't know, because my space in my village, it was, closed when there's a lot of people. But when I walked in the forest or in the fields there, it's all of the things belongs to me. So it was an open space for imagination. It was the way that I escape from my reality, just to imagine. I remember that I imagined, it was things that a group of European people comes to our village just to visit us, and I fall in love with one of them, and he took me to Europe. And when I told my mom, because I just want to run away from there, I also asked her. She has a very good memory, so I trust her. And I told her that there was groups from she just answered me, why? We are not a zoo. Why they should come and visit us here? So I'm not sure about things. It's no matter now, because as a writer now, I can use it to write about other stories from my imagination.
No, it's beautiful. And I think that, that does definitely come across really strongly, that these are like vignettes of, your past. And it doesn't matter that it has to be linear, because that you're just, you're just momentarily coming in to observe a situation. And it's the feeling that it leaves you with that I think is incredibly powerful. I just want to read your, I suppose, the acknowledgement. You have two at the beginning of the book. You say, to the contrary little girl I left behind under the oak tree in the village of Dail el-Erj. The village died, and so did the tree, but she remained, waiting for the light beneath the wings of the queens of darkness. I mean, just that opening page, I feel has so much in it. And I'd also like to, thank Nancy for joining us as well. And I think I'm really fascinated by the sense that, you wrote these memories that you remember and that you've been able to weave into something else. And then Nancy has worked with you to really pull out the essence. And there's something still in the language, the way that it's been rendered in English. I know a little bit of Arabic, but there's something in the flow of the language that really makes me feel like I'm witnessing something that is not my experience. And yet, in every story, I felt myself. I felt part of myself that I thought, this is my experience. There's something so beautifully universal about not just the women and girls that you write about, but also the men that take center stage in some of the stories, the men that are on the sidelines, the men that are invisible and yet have such an impact upon the people. It feels like, and this is a question that Amira was going to pose as well to friends in chat, and we welcome all the friends to share any thoughts that they may have, either whether you've read the stories or just on what we're sharing now and you're hoping to read them. But how do these stories that are written by you, Sheikha, and other women of whichever term you want to use, BIPOC, the global South, how no matter where we come from, there is this universal experience that we all share, because the world is a patriarchy and we are all victims.
Yes.
All souls are victims of that. And I wonder if you could say something about the village that died and the tree, but how the little girl remained, and that resistance and that spirit of rebellion remains within us all.
Yes, I remember when I wrote this introduction, it wasn't, I think it's kind of, I finished the book and I just want to give it to myself or to as a present. And this, the publisher, the Arab publisher, just wrote me laughing, and he said, "Do you think people will like it that you give it to yourself?" And I said, yeah, I think I deserve it just because I could survive this place and continue. And the girl that still angry, I less angry today, but she was, and I think she's the drive, and she's the one who brought me to write these stories. She's still alive. She's still deep in my heart, and I think it's it is a privilege to keep your child inside. But was, and I'm trying to make her calm, because she was very angry about the people inside, about the place, about the injustice, about the things that she forced to, or she was she had to force, and to be in fight every moment in her life, just from the early morning when she leave her poor home and go in the, what do you call wahal, Nancy?
Mud.
Mud, yes, in the mud, and to go to take the bus to Haifa, and in the bus there are a lot of Zionists, and that belongs to Kahana movement, and then to reach Haifa, and people treat you as a Bedouin and a girl, as who come from so the third world, another world, and then come back the same way to your village, and to bring Haifa with you, you know, but it's forbidden. You should leave Haifa in her own, the thoughts, the things that you see there, how people live their lives, how the relationship between daughters and girls, maybe the houses. It was, you know, a kind of hell to me to visit the houses of my friends or the girls in Haifa and come back to my home without just one room, without electricity and water. And these things, I think, make Sheikha as a child very angry and very sad. And I have it in my face also. People were saying to me, why you are so angry? Maybe a week ago, I was invited to make a lecture in front of principals, and I have my book in Arabic, a new one with the pictures, with old pictures inside. And they start look at it and they said, why you are not smiling in these pictures? And it was, I didn't notice that I didn't remember, but I think I was a very angry girl. So I just want to maybe help this child, this girl, to just to relax. I'm okay. I'm still fighting, but it's okay. You can be calm. Even the tree is not there, even the village is not there, but you still alive and inside me.
Thank you so much. It's so powerful. Sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
I just wanted to say one thing. I noticed as I listened to Sheikha, I realized that what she was saying was she wanted to dedicate the book to herself. Because in Arabic, ihda, it can mean to dedicate. And in this particular case, she's saying, I want to dedicate the book to myself.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, that I find that so powerful, right? That you gifted yourself.
Yes. And I gifted to myself, yes.
And when do how often do we do that? How often do we, you know, I mean, as women, but as human beings, you know, just gift ourselves something that we have spent so much time. Like, I feel like the process of you know, and we touched upon this when we spoke ourselves, the process of writing, it's a form of quite painful therapy, because you're going back and you're imagining, you know, the anger and the injustice, you know, through which you're living. And then you're thinking about where you are now as a woman, you know, in the power that you occupy now. And even that is with so much injustice around it. And you're connecting the two, and then you're bringing them together.
You know, it came to me very natural. I didn't think that it is not, you know, in common, because I felt that it's okay. It's the first thing that I should do to myself. And then when you know, people start, you know, open the book and you gift it to yourself, and they said, okay, it's, I think I deserve it, or the girl I left behind me deserve it. So it was a little bit, you know, you make me confused, because I didn't think about this too much. It was, you know, something that I make it spontaneous.
Yeah, well, I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I think I find it so inspirational that, you know, and I also spoke to you about the fact that you started writing when you were 45, and I'm 2 months from being 45, and I keep saying that I'm going to write, and, you know, you said just do it, and do it. Yeah, but not only to do it, but then to really know that you're doing it for yourself. And then when you have the manuscript in your hand, after spending how long, to say, this is for me. I think that is such an incredible gift that you've given, not only to yourself, but now you're giving it to everybody that will come across it. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. But that in itself, I just think is truly amazing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
I also wanted to touch upon, you've spoken about your village, and Nancy, you write about, you kind of focus on that in your translator's preface. And I just wanted to give a little space here, Sheikha and Nancy, if you want to speak to why that was so important.
Nancy?
Well, I mean, everything that I took as important, took to be important, it was derived from what Sheikha felt was important. And of course, I was particularly, you know, I was thinking about how the village had been actually destroyed, you know, and it was destroyed by the Israelis so that they could build a railroad. And just that's so offensive. It just speaks to the total lack of value that they assign to Palestinian life, which obviously we can see right before our eyes every single hour right now. So that's, I mean, for me, if I focused on the village, it was because I felt that that was what Sheikha would have wanted to do. And I had done some extra reading, you know, about her and the things that she'd written in preparation to write the introduction. And that came out there too. And, you know, like she was saying this, she had this sense of kind of, انفصام شخصية, يعني this kind of, what do you call it? Split personality, schizophrenia, you know, where you have to, you've got this life over here and you've got this life over there. And, you know, being an American who's lived for many, many years in the Middle East, I've had a little bit of that myself. There are things that I feel that I can't transfer from here to there. I can't transfer from there to here. I have to stay separate, or I have to hide one part of myself. When I'm here, I can show myself, reveal this part of myself when I'm in this place, but I can't reveal it when I'm in that place. And I think that that's, I can relate to that part of Sheikha's experience.
Thank you so much. And I think, you know, you've also touched upon one of the key themes in the stories, which is that what do we show of ourselves? And actually, most of the time, what are we trying to hide? And a lot of the stories is about looking beyond the veils. And, you know, Sheikha, you've talked about how, you know, these are kind of autobiographical, you know, tales with either yourself or your family or people that you know. And I wanted to ask you if you could share what the reaction has been of your family and friends that have read them and have either seen themselves or they've seen their experience, their history reflected back in these tales.
I don't know if it's unfortunately or it's kind of, I'm lucky that most of the women in my book cannot read. They never went to schools, so they cannot read. But the reaction from the you know, the women and the women that younger that can read was great. They just it's kind of a joke when we meet each other when in family occasions that like, Sheikha, please, you will write this? Or they just, I became, you know, like a camera or some recorder, and sometimes, please write it. Please write this story. You will write it. And even my mother, that in the early beginning, she was against all my writings. And she was very angry that I wrote, she is divorced, she was divorced or something like that. And I just got calls from her when some younger women from the family read to her poems or stories, and she was very angry. Who do you think you are? You allow to yourself to write about me, about your brother, about your home. But later, I think 2 years ago, she started. No, it was when I won the prize in Kuwait. And she saw me in the television, and it was for her, okay, maybe it's a good thing to write about us. And we have, even she's very sick. She has cancer, but so we have to be together a very long time. So I have to go to Haifa once a week, and we have a lot of time together, waiting to the doctor and going to the doctors. And when she starts telling me things, she says, "You want to write it?" Or in the evening, I start write something. Okay, you want me to repeat it? Because I think she's in the, and that's great, because I discover things about her she never told me about. Because I was married in a very early age. I left my mother. It was 3 or 4 years. She stopped speaking with me because I moved to Jaffa. She didn't want it. So there was a gap, a long gap between us, and now we are just trying to close it. And when she tell me about herself, and she wants me to write it, and it's great, because now she doesn't care about what they will say and what they will react. And I think it's a very heavy responsibility towards the girls and the women and the village, because Nancy spoke about the when the Israeli occupation decide that this village is not legal, they call it unrecognized village. You don't know when they will decide and about what place, and they just destroy it and let the people, or force the people to spread. And for the Bedouin, I mean the old people, to leave their place and their things, it's just a kind of death, because after leaving the village, my grandmother, there is an idiom in our village called, I don't know how to translate it, but من طلع من داره انقل مقداره. كلمر who forced انقل مقداره. Who forced to leave his house.
You're uprooted completely, and you just lose your.
Yes, he will, and we can see it today in everywhere, especially in Gaza, what the people suffer from without their houses. You can see the people in the street. They say, "No matter my house is destroyed, I want to go back. I want to go back to my home." So it was a kind of something that you حكم بالإعدام. It's a kind of,
it's a death sentence.
Yes, for the old people, because as younger you can maybe find new friends or something like that. So when you write in Google Zail al-Arj or Rai, my village, you will find Sheikha Helawy. You will find nothing about my village. And it was I'm writing something about my village, a novel. I hope I will complete it, because when they ask me that literature is kind of it's a kind of duty, and now my duty is to bring my village to kind of recognize. It is, you know, unrecognized, and I will do it through the literature. I think through the writing, I will help maybe, or in some way to give my village, my dead village, because there's nothing there, to be recognized, because we still exist, and we will be exist, and we will continue life, and we will not, we don't need other people to just tell us if you should or have the right to live or not. So it's a kind of you know, a message that I have to write it.
I mean, may that message reach far and wide. I think that's why that was something that I wanted to ask, because of Nancy's preface and the way that, you know, in your dedication as well, the importance of naming the roots
Yes.
from which we come, you know, and the
Yes.
power that
Yes.
has, as you know, especially with Palestine, how important it is to name these things. And that power, the more we say it, the more
Yes.
the power gathers, and the intention. So inshallah, and may your intention be fulfilled. It will be, I feel very strongly. I wanted to come back to your mother. So when we had our conversation, I said, you know, it feels like we have the same mother, just in different places. It's kind of
Yes.
scary a little bit, you know, how similar. And I was really.
It's, you know, what is more scary? Because when I that my children say to me, "Oh, be careful, you became like your mother," and I said, "Oh my God, oh my God." You are becoming like her. And sometimes they call me in the name of my mother, Salha, you know, it's something like, don't be like her. And then, oh my God, no.
Oh yeah, that is scary. So that's all I'll say. My husband's on the call as well, so I'm not going to say too much about that. But I wanted to come. I wanted to come to this line, which
say that
really,
the roots, our roots, or our still, you know, continue at the many ages. So we have to be careful.
we need to have this conversation offline. We'll continue this conversation for sure.
Yes.
If anyone wants to join, let me know.
I'm coming to London at June.
Yes, absolutely. We want to share that with friends as well. So Sheikha is inshallah going to be coming in June, and we're going to arrange to have lunch or dinner with her. So we will put that information out on the Ray social. So keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited. Sheikha, I want to take you for aloo parota, which is a traditional Pakistani dish. And Amira's laughing. We'll send you a picture, Amira, if you can't make it. Inshallah. So I wanted to come to this this line that really made me think about my mom, and I think is really powerful for all the stories that you have in the book. And it's actually on page 1 of the first story, Haifa assassinated my braid. And you say about, it's the second paragraph, and I want to read the first line and the last line. Recently divorced, your mother had used up her share of transgressions. She had taken a liking to the taste of rebellion, or at least she'd come to hate the taste of subservience. It's so powerful. I just feel that that's something that would really resonates with everyone, really. And I could really just sit with those lines and see what comes, the writing that could come out of just being with that and imagining all the different rebellions that we've tried, but also really acknowledging how much subservience we have to taste along the way. And you know, this is something that you've woven through all of your stories. And I wanted to bring up something that was really unexpected for me. So, you not only deftly express the many difficulties that women and girls face under patriarchy, but also how the men are victims too. And my husband read the stories as well. And so we were, after he finished reading it, I asked him what had really stuck out for him. And I asked him, what did you make of the men? Because I was really shocked at unexpected empathy that your stories created in me. I never expected to have empathy for the men, especially because the men in your stories remind me of men that I know in my life, in my family. So I was very uncomfortable with feeling empathy for these. Yeah, it was very difficult. And so, so I asked my husband, what did you think of the men? Because this is how I felt. And he said, oh no, I didn't feel any empathy for them. And I thought that was really interesting that he didn't and I did. And maybe it's maturity on my part, I don't know, but it was very uncomfortable. So I want to thank you for bringing something very uncomfortable up in me, because I think it's something I need to sit with. But my question to you is, how did the stories about the men come to you? What was that like to reflect their perspective? Because it's quite difficult, the perspectives that you share when you're writing from the men in the stories.
It is I think it's a little bit complicated because as a daughter of a divorced mother, and you can just imagine what it mean to be a divorced woman in our society, in our Bedouin society, 40 years ago. I don't speak about our days. And she was just, she was rebellious, and she was a very, very powerful. But in the same time, my mom, she didn't want to lose everything in her relationship with the family, because it's a kind of going lost and in the world. So from one side she have to, or she couldn't continue with my father, because it was a traditional marriage. They didn't ask her. She told me that while she was sleeping, her mom and my father put the ring in her finger. She was sleeping, and suddenly she woke up. She was 16, and she said, "What is this?" And she continued playing with the girls, and her mother, who was married at the age of 14, just brought her to home and said, "Shame on you! You will be married in a few months. So you cannot play with other girls." And that things that mom, my mother, just kept gave her brothers the possibility to involve in our life, not to lose them, because she already lost some of her, respect or something as a divorced woman, but she will not go till the end and said, "Oh, okay, nobody can tell me what to do." So her brothers, my uncles, were a kind of apotropos, something like that, some agent that like 3 or 4 or 5 fathers for me, to tell me what to do. And I loved them, okay? The youngest one, there's 5 years between us, and I think, I thought it's like a friend, you know, but I also was witness to the pressure that the society put in the back of the men. You have to be man. You have to take care of your sister. You have to decide for her, and it was a huge pressure. So maybe in that situation, I felt very, you know, sympathy or empathy to them. Maybe in my, you know, I didn't, I wasn't aware to this issue, and it came in the writing. But yes, I still, my brother, he is 50, and he has the same conflict. To be the, we call it the Mukhtar. It's like, you know, the man who,
The mayor.
you know, yes, in the family, and to be just kind and to me, to her sister, to his sister. It's, you know, there is two faces, one for the outside for the society, and the other side inside in the families, that you can hug your sister and say good words. So in some way, this make the men very victim. They are the victim also, not just the women.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what was really surprising for me, was that, you know, all the stories really spoke to me, but the ones that I can't stop thinking about is Ali and Ho.
Ali. Yes.
You know, like both of them, I just find, and I would like to read this paragraph just because I think it's such a powerful statement, talking to this idea of how we are all victims and the pressure that, you know, that is upon. So it's page 74 in a story called Ho. When had this fixation come over him? And was it just an obsession or a reality? A statement he'd heard somebody make. Was it the Sheikh in one of his sermons? Or maybe a religious friend of his? He couldn't remember exactly. Had triggered an obsession with dishonor. He was so scared. It was all he could think about. Had the person who made the statement been addressing him in particular? Or had he been talking about reforming society by dealing with immoral women in general? Were other men making jokes about him behind his back? Like
Yes.
I've highlighted it in my book.
The same situation, I began to think about that too, when you talked about being empathetic with the men. Yeah, he's suffering. He's, you know, and he talks somewhere else about, man, if I only just didn't have any sisters, you know, if somebody, he just has sons, he just says, oh man, that must be nice, he doesn't have to worry about this. So that he has to worry about this. He must. Society insists that he worry about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, it's so incredibly, I keep using the word powerful. I need to find more adjectives, but unexpected and uncomfortable, and yet stays with you, which I think, you know, is the mark of great storytelling. That we, you know, like I said, it made me uncomfortably turn the lens and look in my own life, and it kind of expands that understanding of humanity and how we get caught in these traps, that instead of looking at the system that is imposing it upon us, we feel like we have to continue enforcing it in the way that, you know, society expects of us. And I feel that just by you writing about this, it's such an incredible way to deal with it, to really face it, to confront it. And that's why I feel that I know you said, that you wrote it in Arabic, a number of years ago, but the fact that it's come out now in English with not only the systems of injustice that are happening around the world, but particularly in Palestine at this moment, and also how we get a lot of, the Arab man, right? He's seen in a certain way. He's seen as the aggressor, the terrorist. But now, with everything that's been going on in the last, couple of months, especially, there is this new narrative that is emerging. And, I'm really grateful that you're also a voice that is speaking out in this time to help us to look beyond what the surface level is. So, thank you both for, Sheikha, for writing about it, for tapping in to, the men in your family and the experiences, and Nancy, so deftly express it in English. I feel like I'm hearing Sheikha's words in a language that I can understand, and I can only imagine what it must be like in Arabic. And so, speaking to that, I would like to now pass over to the Arabic portion of our evening. I wanted to give Sheikha an opportunity to express herself in her own language without also having to be thinking about translation. And so Amira Jan is going to take over hosting for me here. And for friends who do not understand the next portion, in Arabic, we will be putting captions in the recording, so you can come back and immerse yourselves in what Sheikha has to say. So, over to you, Amira Jan.
Thank you, Saima, and thank you, Sheikha and Nancy, for being here. I was just telling Sheikha, it's such an honor to be here with you. So my question, let me just start with a question, both in English and in Arabic, and then I'll go dive into the Arabic. So it's more about the title of the book, and I'm curious. شيخة أعتقد إن الكتاب هو سيدات العتمة، صح؟ And Nancy, you translated, or I mean, it's the English title is They Fell Like Stars from the Sky, and there's a it's very different. So العربي سيدات العتمة في زي ظلمة كده، في عتمة، في darkness, fogginess, لكن بالإنجليزي I feel that there is, even though they're falling, there is a sense of there's the sky, so it does have an light or an optimistic kind of way. So I'm just curious from both of you, why the different titles, or why you chose They Fell Like Stars from the Sky as opposed to سيدات العتمة.
أظن
لا احكي نانسي.
اوكي، لانه العنوان هو هي يعني مش ترجمه يعني سيدات العتمة هو عنوان قصة ثانية،
قصة
يعني اخترنا عنوان مختلف تماما. ليش؟ لأنه كلمة سيدة شكلت مشكلة كبيرة، سببت مشكلة كبيرة يعني في الترجمة. سيدة، mistress, queen، طبعا في النهاية أظن ترجمنا queens of darkness. أيوة. بس كانت يعني كان صعب جدا إنه نتوصل ترجمة دقيقة لكلمة سيدة العتمة. ففي النهاية تتذكري كيف توصلنا لاختيار؟
صحيح، لأنه بالعربي حتى كلمة سيدات في عندها معاني كمان يعني مختلفة. إحنا تناقشنا بالعنوان نانسي، ومن ضمن الاقتراحات اقترحنا هذا العنوان وحبيناه حتى مع أرشنا، مع دار النشر. وحسينا إنه هو يعني هو أصلاً عنوان واحدة من القصص، يعني إحنا ما جبنا من برا، هو في قصة بنفس العنوان موجودة بالكتاب. فالقصة يعني كان في نوع من الأخذ وعطاء. ونانسي كمان حكت إنه بالكتاب كنجوم يسقطن من السماء في زيادة 3 قصص اللي هي ما كانت بسيدات العتمة، قصص اللي هي جديدة. ف يعني أنا بحب على فكرة فكرة انه ما نكونش في صرامه باختيار الاشياء. انا ضد هذا الاشي. ما بزعجني انه انا اغير عناوين، بالعكس انا بحس انه لازم يكون في نوع من يعني انه ماشي مع اللغه اللي مترجم لإلها. لازم يكون في نوع من التناسب بين الأشياء. فما عندي هاي اللي إنه لا لازم نحافظ على عنوان الكتاب، لا أنا لازم اللغة اللي منقول لإلها يكون في، تحسي في سلاسة وفي موسيقى. فما عندي هاي المشكلة. يعني كثير مرات يعني بيعترضوا علي إنه ليش أنت عم تعملي هيك، لأنه حتى في ترجمات مثلا للعبرية كان في ترجمة إنه كمان غيرت العنوان، لأنه أنت بتحسي لما بتنقل للغة تانية بيكون الإشي مختلف. وبما إنه يعني أنا بثق بنانسي، وبما إنه اللغة الإنجليزية هي لغة الأم عندها، فأكيد في عندها إحساس إنه هاي ما بتمشي زي ما لازم. فهذا كان الاختيار.
تمام، شكرا. وكنت عايزة وبرضو بالنسبة للغة، يعني حضرتك تكتبي باللغة البدوية سواء في القصة أو في الشعر. ونانسي برضو قدرت إنها تبرز ده شوية. يعني هي يعني you transliterated شوية المصطلحات، زي الله يقصف عمرك، ولا سلامة
يقصف
راسك.
عمرك.
يعني سلامة راسك، ويا ناعم العود يا سيد الملاح، وين يا مسهل. الحاجات دي احنا كعرب بنفهمها. يعني زي كمان لما قلتي من طلع من داره واتقل مقداره. يعني فجميل ان نانسي مش بس ترجمتها، كمان كتبتها بالترانسليتريشن، يعني عشان نقدر نتعرف عليها. فلو تقدري تحكي لنا شوية على لو تقدري تحكي لنا شوية على اللهجة البدوية في الكتابة. أنا عارفة إن هي لغتك، يعني فبالنسبة لك سهل الكتابة، بس بالنسبة لنا برضو بتوصل يعني وصلنا بشكل حلو. لو تقدري تحكي لنا شوية.
اللهجة البدوية حاضرة. يعني ما كان يمكن إنه أنا أكتب حوار مثلا بيني وبين أمي وأحوله للفصحى. ما كان ممكن إنه أقول أشياء معينة وأكتبها بالفصحى. ما كان رح تطلع طبيعي يعني. وما بحب أنا التصنع في الكتابة. فتخيلي إنه يعني حتى من خلال الكتابة ما كان عندي فكرة أو نية إنه عشان أبرز اللهجة البدوية يعني كهدف. لا، هاي الطبيعة، هاي طبيعة الشيء. لما أمي مثلا تقول لي الله يقصف عمرك أو وين يا مسهل أو إلى آخره، هاي طبيعة الشيء. وبالنسبة للترجمة مع نانسي، يعني أنا بفكر إنه كان مهم هاي الحفاظ عليها لحتى القارئ. أنا بفكر إنه هاي تحدي كبير، يعني تشالنج إنه تعملي هاي الأشياء. بس هذه جزء من واقعية القصة. هذه جزء من الإشي الحقيقي اللي عم بتجيبيه يعني. فصحيح استخدمت اللهجة البدوية بقصص، استخدمتها بالشعر حتى. كان في، يعني أنا عم بكتب شعر فصيح ولكن في داخله مثلا شيء اللي هو بالبدوي. فبشعر إنه هذا الطبيعي يعني لإلي.
Nancy, would you like to
أنا
add؟
تفضل.
حبيت تزودي؟ تفضل.
كنت بدي أحكي إنه مثلا لما حطيت يعني بعض العبارات يعني كتبت عن طريق الترانسليشن، يعني كان الهدف طبعا. أنا بعرف إنه القارئ الإنجليزي أو الأمريكي أو يعني غيره إذا ما كان المتكلمين باللغة العربية ما راح يفهم يعني هذا الكلام أصلا، ما راح تفرق معه أن يكون بالعامية أو بالفصحى. بس بيجوز عشان القراء اللي بيتكلموا لغة عربية عشان يحسوا هم يعني باللهجة العامية أو النكهة البدوية عشان نحتفظ فيها. حسيت إنه كويس إنه أحافظ على بعض العبارات العامية بهذا الشكل، وبنفس الوقت أحاول أوضح معناها دون ما أترجمها بشكل مباشر. أحط السياق بحيث إن الواحد يفهم المعنى دون ما أترجمها بشكل مباشر.
صح، وده فعلا اللي وصل لي. يعني أنا كقارئة للغة العربية كمهمة بالنسبة لي إن يوصل لي الترانسليتريشن ده، وإن الترجمة ما تبقاش ترجمة حرفية، تبقى ترجمة فيها نيوانس of العبارة اللي باللغة العربية. فبالنسبة لي أنا ده كان كويس، ده وصل لي يعني.
الحمد لله.
كويس. أنا واخدة بالي إن إحنا we've gone slightly over time, so I just want to hand back to Saima. I have lots of questions. يعني عندي كمية أسئلة كتيرة جدا جدا، لكن زي ما سايما قالت we can have various other discussions afterwards. So I'll just hand over. يعني أشكركم جدا شيخة ونانسي.
شكرا أميرة.
حقيقي كتاب جميل جدا جدا جدا. I'll just hand over to Saima and she can take over from here. شكرا لكم.
شكرا أميرة.
Thank you, Amira Jan. It's never enough, but yeah, inshallah, we can continue sharing our reflections and asking for more gems from you, inshallah, as we continue. But I wanted to actually pass it back over to Sheikha, who's going to recite some poetry. Sheikha, is it going to be in Arabic, and then I'll post the English in chat, and then we can add it into captions as well? Is that okay?
Okay.
So which one would you like to do first?
Stream, maybe? Homeland or stream? Same.
Stream?
Yes, I am just, I don't know where it is. Here it is. Stream. Okay?
Yeah.
لا يعنيني ذاك النهر المحاذي لقرية الميتة هناك على سفح جبل الكرمل. لا يعنيني الشارع الذي كان يفصل بين أكواخنا وبين النهر. لا تعنيني القرية اليهودية التي وراء النهر. كنت أكره أضواءها الساطعة في الليل. لا يعنيني منسوب المياه فيه، ولا يعنيني اسمه الذي لم أحفظه يوما. يعنيني أن أتذكر لماذا كنت مرة سأغرق فيه ولماذا لم أغرق. You put it in the chat? I want to read about Watan. It was the first poem that I wrote, so I just want to find it. Okay? Because I didn't download it. Here it is. Here it is. Homeland. كنت صغيرة جدا. لم يجتهد أحد من حولي كي يحدثني عن الوطن. اعتقدت لشتائين متتاليين أن الوطن هو كيس النايلون المتين الذي يصمد حول أحذيتنا يوما كاملا دون أن ينفذ منه وحل الطريق. الشتاء كان الغربة عن الوطن، الحذاء المتين كان الوطن البديل. شكرا.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm actually just wondering, just because they're so beautiful, Amira Jan, would you like to read them in English?
Gosh, okay. Right. So stream. I don't care about the stream near my village, dying at the foothills of the Carmel Mountain. I don't care about the road that separated the shacks from the stream. I don't care about the Jewish settlement behind the stream. I hated its lights glowing in the darkness. I don't care about the measurement of the channel flow or its name, which I never remembered. I do care to remember why I almost drowned in it and why I didn't. So powerful. Homeland. I was a little girl, very little. No one around me bothered to tell me about homeland. For 2 winters straight, I thought homeland was the thick plastic bag that survives, wrapped around our shoes all day, doesn't let the mud get through. Then I was sure winter was the exile, and strong shoes were a different kind of homeland.
Thank you. شكرا أميرة.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Sheikha, for bringing these 2 additional poems, and I look forward to more translations of your work that will be coming.
Inshallah.
And I know Nancy's working on something at the moment as well, so really happy to see this collaboration continuing. Just very, very grateful to you both for joining. And we will, God willing, have you back to continue. And Sheikha, would you like to close with a prayer or sharing anything?
You know, sometimes the last 4 or 5 months, I just think, I'm just thinking about the little girls and children in Gaza, all of them, but especially. I just want this to be end. I ask just to be end, and all of the wounded girls and boys, children, just to have the powerful, to happy to be happy in the future, because they deserve the life. I don't want to imagine them thinking that they don't deserve the life, because they deserve a better and a good life as every child in this world. So I'm just praying for them, for love, to continue and still love the world and being in this world.
Thank you so much. And God willing, may one day they be able to take off their shoes and run barefoot on the grass of their homeland.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Amen.
Shukran. I'm so glad. It was wonderful. I you know, every meeting I feel more confidence and more, you know, sometimes because I lose this confidence, and I'm just a little bit far from my writing, but this make me feel it's worth it. It's worth it to continue. writing.
Oh, please, please, you just for the little girls in all of us, please, as long as it
Inshallah.
feels right for you. And we're so grateful for your sharing. I'm so
Thank you all.
so grateful to connect with you. I just feel really blessed that we were able
Thank
to
you.
make this
Thank
happen.
you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
شكرا نانسي.
حبيبي.
حبيبتي.
Thank you. Yes. Well, you know, God willing, we'll have you back for the next collection. But in the meantime, Sheikha, you'll be speaking about this collection when you come into the UK. So
Yes.
if friends
Yes.
haven't read it, you know, please do, and you'll be hearing about when she's coming. So yes, thank you both so much. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest
you.
of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.